We thank the government whip very much for his speech and happily call upon our opposition whip. Hear, hear.
Actually, I'm not a sexist anymore. Throughout all my arguments, you will be convinced of this. 3 points in my speech. First of all, why Putin? I'm afraid of you if you are not in prison but in the West. Second, why the only one thing we know for sure, it is your comfort, and your comfort is much more important when you're at the West. And third, it is your ultimate goal or principle of effective investments, where that your talent must maybe realized better in the West countries than in Russia. Let's start with the very first point. So why Putin is more afraid of you when you are at the West? 2 points here. First of all, I will explain why when you sit in prison you are useless for your country, and second of all, I will explain you what actions will you be able to undertake living in the West. First of all, sitting in prison, what can you do? What reasons did they give us today? First of all, you show your protest that you live in prison and therefore somehow fight this regime. First of all, we already have huge amount of people in prison who fight this regime, and it doesn't help to our regime. Second of all, we think that no regime was changed by people in prison. All regimes was changed by people outside the prisons, and it's quite apparent that this protest isn't effective. Therefore, I think it is not a real argument in this debate. Second of all, they told us if you will give up the prison, we will show to everyone that you are not strong, that you are not sincere, and therefore no one will ever believe you. First of all, we think that such people like Lenin lived abroad for a very long time instead of prison, and no one believes that Lenin was a very big man. Second of all, Dalai Lama, very religious leader of Tibet, living abroad in exile, and no one believes that he is sick. Everyone knows that China government is very aggressive, and everyone believes to Dalai Lama, trusts him, and believes that they are strong. No, thank you. Therefore, we think it is not a reason to think that you are strong. What we really do know in this situation, that government mass media, which have the most television time in Russia, will anyway make a picture dirty in the eyes of our people, whether living abroad or in Russia. It doesn't matter for them. They can easily do it in any way. But what we do know, that when you are living abroad, you can undertake some actions that you can't make in Russia. And Ilya told us that you shouldn't put any information in Twitter, you should do something in Russia. And he didn't explain us what Pussy Riot can do in Russia. For example, Navalny, he is a lawyer. He can do some lawsuits in court and to protect some and do some real actions. What can Pussy Riots do? They can do some protests in church. And after second such action, they will be in prison for 10 years or for even 20 or 30 years, and they will be completely useless for our country, and they can't do anything meaningful in their real life in our country because they don't have any successful skill. Only thing they can do is songs. But doesn't matter where you produce songs, in the West or in Russia, it doesn't matter at all. No, thank you. Therefore, we think real actions, they didn't show us any real actions that required from you as a country. No, thank you. But what we do know, that right now it doesn't matter where you sit. You sit in London or in Moscow. Everywhere you have Twitter and internet technologies. And it is where changes happen. For example, Arabic Revolution was made by Twitter. And we think it is a very effective tool to make change in people's minds, to organize them, and so on. For example, it was very long ago, Lenin, through letters and books, managed to undertake revolution in Russia. And we think when you have internet, it's much more effective, it's much more easy, and we already have this role model, and we already have seen that it's possible. No, thank you, guys. So we think your actions will be possible in this situation when you live abroad, and there is no need to sit in prison. No, thank you. Second of all, still someone may not be convinced, does Twitter work, does prison meaningful for us or not, but what we do know for sure, that it's more comfortable to live in West than in prison. And you as a person, when you face this choice, where you are not for sure that what will work better, you should listen to your own feelings, and you know that Russian prison is very strong. And Ilya told us that you should show everyone that you are strong women, but we can show you a opposite scenario. But what if you are not? What if a Russian prisoner is more strong than you? That 10 armed guys in this prison, very bad conditions, illness is more strong than you. We don't think this about women, it is just about human in Russian prison. Therefore, there is huge chances that our prison will be more stronger than you. And after this prison, you won't be even able to sing songs in our country because we will for your own sake, you should go to the West. And only from the West, we know for sure that we will be able to do some changes in our country. No, thank you. Therefore, it's obvious that from this perspective, you should go there. And finally, third, your ultimate goal. You should put some, your efforts like investments. Where you should put your investments for? I think you don't care only about Russia. You care about all women in all our world. You care about women in Russia, in China, in Slovenia, in Slovakia, in Serbia, everywhere. And when you go to the West, you can help these women more because there are much more chances for you to help them. Yes?
The most perfect ways by which you can provide feminist agenda is to showing that women are able to sustain even Russian jail. There are enough feminist philosophers, writers, and so on in the West. Some, like a couple of others, will not make change.
We think that there is more likely that this prison will break you, and therefore it will destroy all your efforts that was done before, and create the image of women that she's weaker than Russian prison, and Putin is stronger than you. So we think and we know the example of Ayn Rand, who immigrated to the United States in the early 30th years of 20th century, and she proposes theory of egoism, and she realized that it is more effective to live in the United States to spread her ideas. And I think it is a very fair choice to live there because there will make more benefits for our society. And for Pussy Riots, they can't undertake any measures in Russia. They can't think anymore in churches in Russia. But in the West, sometimes such measures are more acceptable, probably in not so extreme form, but in more light form that are not acceptable in Russia. And therefore, as the West, feminist movement will be glad to see you, will be glad to see me as a Pussy Riot. And therefore, they will give me a round of applause for my efforts, and they will give me a win in this fight for freedom and for equality of women. Thank you very much.